Hey guys, believe we're live. Says we're live. Says good connection. Alrighty, like we're live. Oh, yeah, everything pulled up here, and then we're gonna get into the show. Hopefully, the connection should be a lot better this time around. There's some stuff behind the scenes, so shouldn't be as many drop frames, if any, now. Hopefully none. So we're looking pretty good so far. A lot better than before. So without further ado, let's just get into the show. We're rolling into another episode of the Tasteful Fan Service podcast, and today's stimulating topics are starting with Idris Elba isn't black enough. You're not gonna believe this one. Well, I can believe it. Pretty sure most people can believe it, but still ridiculous. Let's go ahead and give this a watch. I'll give this a look here. So, it's coming from the BBC. Well, this article is from Entertainment Canada, but this is according to the BBC's diversity chief, which, by the way, is a fake job. Like, in what world do you need a diversity chief? What is their job? Make sure there's not enough white people on set. There's not too many white people on set. Like, there's hiring people for anything these days, but he doesn't have any black friends. The BBC's diversity chief, Miranda Whalen, says Luther, the broadcaster's hit crime series starring Idris Elba, isn't authentic when it comes to storytelling surrounding its black lead. Elba's DCI Luther, John Luther, doesn't have any black friends. He doesn't eat any Caribbean food. This doesn't feel authentic, she says. It's great having those big landmark shows with those key characters, but it's about making sure everything around them, their environment, their culture, the set is absolutely reflective. Wayland says, explaining the BBC's diversity and inclusion strategy during the digital MIP TV conference. It'll be very much how we can make sure that this program is authentic in terms of storytelling. So fans obviously had backlash because that's ridiculous. People are saying, what, because it's not a stereotype. He's not black enough because he doesn't eat any Caribbean food. When you see groups through the prism of stereotypes, this is an insulting outcome. Would she prefer to see Luther dunk hoops at the end of every scene? Honestly, at this point. Yesterday was implied he wasn't black enough. I didn't have any black friends in my photo. Today, BBC Diversity says Luther isn't black enough because he doesn't have any black friends. These lazy stereotypes are in fact racist. Seems like Diversity Chief is being pretty racist here. And we just got more people commenting on this. The point is, it's crazy to see that. And if you're not sure what the BBC is, that's Canada's broadcasting service, which is completely funded by the government, by the way. So they can afford to have do nothing jobs like diversity chief because they don't have to actually worry about them generating any money. They just take it from the population. But what they said here is it just shows that the real racists, the real people that are trying to push this stuff on the people, they're the ones that care about race. People just like the show. It's a good show. Idris Elba is awesome. He's good in every role. I don't like him as Heimdall because it doesn't make any sense because one of Heimdall's monikers is literally the whitest of the white, and Idris is anything but that. But as far as him acting, yeah, he does a good job. But that's a completely different topic. But he's good in so many things. He was good in the Dark Towers. I loved him in Molly's Game. Like, he's great in everything. He's a phenomenal actor. And instead of just saying, okay, his acting ability is great, his acting ability is great. You want what nice shots in the show, nice plot structure, scene structure, and good pacing. No, no, no. We gotta focus on the fact that he didn't eat Caribbean food. How are we supposed to know he's a black man? I wonder if there's anything that could tell if you were a black man. Uh, hmm. No, I can't think of anything. Can't think of anything that would tell if you're a black man or not. But I do know that if I had a bowl of Caribbean food right now, oh, then I'd be a black man. Not like any white people are from islands or whatnot, or any Caribbean islands. But you know, I had to open it off for that because when I saw that, it really upset me. This one really bothered me when I saw this. Cause I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me. In what world are you gonna say Idris Elba isn't black enough? The character he's playing isn't, but still, like, absolutely ridiculous. But with that, we're gonna move on to another star, but this time he's deciding to move stuff around himself. And of course, I'm referring to Will Smith. Now, Will Smith decided to move his film out of Georgia. Let's see why. Will Smith film moving out of Georgia in protest of state's regressive voting laws at a cost of $15 million to movie budget. New Georgia voting laws are reminiscent of voting impediments that were passed at the end of the Reconstruction to prevent many Americans from voting. Actor Will Smith, along with director Anton Fuqua, announced they are moving production of the upcoming film Emancipation out of Georgia in protest of the state's regressive voting laws that are designed to restrict voter access, Deadline reported. So details are, on Monday, a Monday statement from the production companies said that at this moment in time, the nation is coming to terms with history and is attempting to eliminate vestiges of institutional racism to achieve true radical justice. Of course, these new voting laws are reminiscent of old voting impediments, and regrettably, they feel compelled to move their film production work from Georgia to another state. So, what does the law actually say? The law merely ramps up security for Georgia's election by requiring photo ID for mail-in ballots, and it even expands early voting hours. Yet it's been almost universally criticized by the left and has fallen victim to their attacks. For example, President Joe Biden earned 4 Pinocchios from the Washington Post for saying the law ends voting hours early so working people can't cast their vote. End quote. And the paper added that Georgia's far-left U.S. Senator Raphael Warnock signed on a third-party email that contained false information about the voting law. And Deadline also noticed that the emancipation production leaving Georgia will cost it about $15 million in state tax rebates, which have made the state such a busy U.S. production hub. The outlet said the new location for the movie will likely be Louisiana, given that that's where the events of Emancipation, which is about a runaway slave, take place. Prior to the decision to move production out of Georgia, Smith and Fuqua held discussions with Stacey Abrams, who urged Hollywood to not leave the state over the law. Deadline said the outlet noted that the topics of shooting in the state would be difficult given the subject matter of the movie. Emancipation was scheduled to begin filming June 21st, Deadline reported. And star Will Smith in the lead role while Fuqua will direct. So there you go. There's your information on that. Now, the funny thing here is that it's just not true as far as what the law does. So, as this said, the law ramps up security. So Biden lied outright, as he always do. That's to be expected. But lies and says people that are working can't vote when actually the hours were extended from what they were before. Easy lie to easily fact check. A lot of the commentary was coming from, oh, you can't give water to people in line. Biden also said that. Many other commentators and pundits said that. However, funny thing is, what it said was, it wanted to stop crowd warming or line warming, which means that people were giving people pizza and drinks and whatnot in line to get you to, I don't know, warm you up to vote for a certain person. So what they did instead was say that, 150 feet from the polling locations, that's where you can give someone water or whatever you want to do. From the polling location entrance. It doesn't sound like you can't give it to them. It sounds more like you can't give it to them once they're already here. So here's what you do, and typically they're by a library or some public building with a with a decent parking lot size, or maybe or it's not just like in the middle of nowhere. Typically these polling places. So what can you do? You can set up across the street, down the street a little bit, not even that far. It's 150 feet, just down street in a little bit, or maybe even just in an adjacent parking lot. Like, that's not far, and you can do so right there. No one says you couldn't. And of course, at the end of the day, you could also just bring your own whatever you need. But apparently it's regressive because they just wanted people to have ID. Last time I recall, you needed ID for driving. Apparently they want to make a vaccine passport, so you're gonna need ID to prove that you got the jab, and they want to expand, and you need a ID to get a gun. They want to expand the gun laws and gun restrictions. So it seems like ID is very important, but for some reason, for elections, they don't want that. So here's what it is: either elections to them are not as important as gun laws and driving and other things, or they just want to get in as many people as they can and coerce them as best they can. Those are the only two options, because all these other things already require ID. So if they don't want voting to require ID, they don't think it's as important as those, or they want to be able to coerce. Those are the only two options. You can pick. I'm not gonna pick for you, but you can pick. I know what I'm going with, but you can pick. But moving on from big stars, let's go down to the MCU. Let's move on to the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So, I believe this was the second episode, I believe, or second or third episode, that when we met Isaiah Bradley, we saw that viewership and ratings of viewership lowered after that point in the episode because of the cop scene. When Bucky and Falcon were arguing, we saw that the cops pulled up out of nowhere, just seemed to appear and stop them. And of course, Bucky's white and Sam is black, so they were like, "Stop, sir! Is he bothering you?" Whatnot. They realize who they are and like, "Oh, we're so sorry." And it was just so forced, so ham-fisted, and it's just like, okay, like, what did this have to do with anything? And yeah, sure, yeah. Like, the people who I'm just saying this, the dudes who literally brought half the world's population back, you're not gonna forget one of their faces. People know. If a cop saw Jake Paul down the street, they would be like, "Oh yeah, we know who that is." Pretty much any of them, or like have heard of them, be like, "Hey, you're that guy. Like, I've heard of you. I've seen you from somewhere." This guy was like, had no idea. The second he looked at him, he didn't be like, "Huh?" And even took the guy who told him, "Hey, they're Avengers," a second. These are the most famous human beings on Earth, so it just showed how forced it was. But in the latest episode, episode 5, the penultimate episode, is the second from the last, because there's only 6 episodes in this. We see an episode titled Truth. We see that Sam revisits Isaiah, and they start talking. Sam wants to understand what happened to his past. Now, here's the interesting bit about this. That is a bit of a mixed bag here, because no one can deny there was a multitude of racial issues in the past, especially during Bradley's time. So everything he says, I can't argue against, because I mean, that's all facts. Like, that's what he went through, that's what happened to him, and that's how the country was back in that time. However, one thing I am against is tokenizing of heroes. But the interesting thing about Isaiah is that I don't see him tokenized in the same way I see someone like Captain Marvel tokenized. So, for instance, I'll bring this up for you. So, right here, we have Carol Danvers. We have Carol Danvers and we have Marvel here. This is Marvel. So, Marvel in the Captain Marvel movie is this woman. Marvel in the comics is this man. They changed the origin, they changed him around because they want to bury the straight white man, and change him out to be a woman. And he was also never Captain Marvel, considering Marvel was a Kree over here. So completely changed who he was, his origins, how he came about, to make it so that they could prop Miss Danvers up. And the issue here is that an issue with Captain Marvel in general is that this is just you changing someone so that way you can push them up. This is nothing original. This is you just swapping stuff out to push a message. What does the story gain from changing this guy into this woman? Nothing. It added nothing to the story. There's no part about her being a woman that made the story better. It only made it worse because you destroyed the original character's legacy. But that's not the same with Isaiah Bradley. Exactly. I typically be like, oh, we know Cap is Cap. Why are we making another? Why do we need a Black Captain America? And I agree. However, we have here. You could look this up, but I have this barred up for you just in case you didn't know this. The Weapons Project in Marvel, Weapon 1, and this is retroactively, so this wasn't how it was intended originally, but like it's been like this for decades. So, which I mean isn't of course perfect, but like this is what's been going for a while, and it ties in pretty good, and it makes sense. So it's not forced in, and it makes sense, and it wasn't designed just to tokenize people, and you'll see later why. So the Weapon Plus project, Weapon 1 was Captain America. And since Weapon 1 was Captain America, they obviously tried to make more weapons. And Weapon 10 or Weapon X is our favorite, Wolverine. And of course, since the Super Serum and Dr. Erskine was lost to them, to the US government, they were trying to further that plan, and this all tied into their project to try to quell the mutant force with super soldiers, and Steve Rogers was supposed to be the first of that. Obviously, he went on ice, Erskine died, Super Serum was lost, so that plan failed. They moved on to different projects, culminating in Wolverine as the last, I guess I would say, good weapon. There's been weapons after Wolverine, but he was the last good one. So, with all that being said, the idea of super soldier serum was designed to go to multiple places and had designed to be in multiple people. So I'm fine with someone else getting super soldier serum. But if he were to pick up the shield and try to parade around like he's Captain America, I don't like. Like Winter Soldier has super soldier serum in him. Not the exact kind that Cap has, but it's different strain. But he's not a copy of Captain America, which I wouldn't like either. Even though he's white, I wouldn't like that either. The Sentry has super soldier serum in him, but it's like a super strong variant of it. He's not a version, copy or a tokenized version or anything of that sort of Captain America, because they're very different. So Isaiah Bradley, since he was never really like the Black Captain America, even though the story kind of presented him in that fashion, he was never truly that. So I don't really have too much of an issue with Isaiah's existence because it makes sense for what the project was intended to be. But what I do have an issue with is the way he, or at least that not even he, but the episode frame some things. I have an issue with how the episode, talking about the past, talking about what happened to you is great, but like when they went into, and of course, you got to separate. You got to understand, like, people are writing this. It's not like Isaiah's not a real person. Someone wrote this for him to say. So there's thought behind this. There's editors. There's chiefs. There's passes. There's screen tests. There's table reads. This isn't just, oh, Isaiah just said this. Like there's a way the sausage is made for these things. So when he got into saying that no self-respecting black man would pick up the shield, now it's interesting because I would agree, but I would agree for different reasons. I would agree that you wouldn't do it because that's someone else's name, and I don't like that. Obviously, the way the episode ended, Sam's going to be the new Captain America. I don't like that because he's the Falcon, and he's perfectly capable, perfectly fine at being the Falcon. He doesn't need to hand me down someone else's name to be a great hero. He's already a great hero. Using that shield and putting on some white and blue stripes doesn't make him any better of a hero. He was already great as he was. So I would agree in that sense. The way I would disagree is that I don't see that. I don't believe that that I hate it because you would hate America, or you would hate like capitalism, would hate the systems that we're in, or something of that sort. Because Isaiah hates to do that. He doesn't hate it exactly due to you preserving your own identity. He hates it because he doesn't like what America represents. And I can understand how he feels in that respect. But going so far as today and, putting that message out there is a little resentful. I think the best takeaway from this would be Sam could go forward saying, maybe you're right about a self-respecting black man not wanting to do this, but not because I hate America, because there's good things here and there's great things here, and racism as it used to exist has largely been defeated. But I do agree that I wouldn't put this mantle on because I already have my own mantle, because I'm my own person. That's how I would like that to have concluded, but that's obviously not how it went. So it's a bit of a mixed bag of how it is, because it's not tokenized in the way that like Captain Marvel is or Marvel is, but it's also not presented in the best or most realistic light or be having an honest look at it. So it's a bit interesting. They kind of buried some truth and like some lies into it at different levels. But that's going to be all I want to talk about for that. I will be doing a review for the Falcon and Winter Soldier once it's ended. So at the end of next week is the final episode on Friday. So I'll watch that and then I'll give a recap of it like I did for WandaVision. But moving on to the next segment. All right. So what I wanted to talk about here was going to be Attack on Titan. Now, seeing as I dislike what's been happening with comics and comic book properties and comic book franchises, I feel it's only fair to give people something good to go watch, good to listen to, good to check out. And what that would be something like Attack on Titan, which just ended. I am going to be making a video about that, about Attack on Titan's ending and what I thought about it and just the series as a whole. If you want a really great deconstruction, like of the entirety and the making of the show and whatnot, I recommend Totally Not Mark's video. It's phenomenal work, honestly. I couldn't even dream of making something like that just because the copyright claims on that video alone would, oh lord, like there's about 500 things they could claim him on, so I don't even want to begin to think about that battle. But if it all works out for him, he deserves it because that was a great video. But As far as the ending, some people were split on it, but I wanted to discuss, highlight that a bit, but then also talk about how, even with that, it's still better than a lot of stuff you'll find in Western comics right now. Let's take a look at this article. So, the reaction to Attack on Titan chapter 139, fans disappointed by manga ending. So it's a historic week for Attack on Titan fans with the final chapter of the manga series releasing around the world. The chapter was released on April 8th, dropping one day earlier than expected. Unfortunately, it appears that it's disappointed. The community is disappointed with how the series wrapped up. So there's been mixed reaction online to the final chapter of Attack on Titan from fans of the series, with many expressing disappointment at how the chapter concluded the story. I highly doubt that any particular ending to Attack on Titan would have satisfied the entire community. But there's always people who still complain after all. However, there has been an obviously mixed reaction to the final chapter in the manga series. Some fans have praised it and some have criticized it as unfulfilling. However, there are countless fans who are sharing their disappointment in the ending on social media, claiming they feel let down, unsatisfied with how Aaron's story wrapped up. And a commentator on Anime News for Neverworld, they used some of his statements as how he summed it up. So, quote, "I'd be lying if I said I was fulfilled by that. I felt like Aaron died for nothing. Fam, I'll be honest with you, I'm disappointed," end quote. He goes on to say, however, like many of us longtime fans of the series, he adds, "I don't like how that ends with basically everything Aaron did was for nothing. I feel like we were slapped in the face to a certain degree." So with that, I wanted to talk a bit about that. See, with Attack on Titan is interesting because it started, it wasn't mediocre. It had a great plan in place, but it started as kind of reaction bait. Like, it was graphic, it was gruesome, it was a lot happening, it was sensory overload. So like that rush was keeping you interested. As it tapered down, like, we got into the more the nitty gritty, it became more thought provoking. Like, what is this? What's behind the walls? What's in the walls? What are Titans? How do they change? What's morally? What's the rest of the world like? What's the founding Titan, the royal family? All of these things. And it's just got so incredible by the end. Personally, I enjoyed the ending. I found it very satisfying. It were some things that was a bit off, but I never expected it to be perfect. But I'd still give the ending at the lowest the 8 out of 10, at the very lowest. However, a lot of people don't see it that way. But what I see it, I would say that Attack on Titan and the series ending, I would say this is how you should look at it, because people, say that, Aaron's death meant nothing because they're still fighting going on after he dies. There's still a war going on. Now, that was always going to be the case. It's kind of like how if you watch a show with a lot of fighting or something in it, and then by the end, you see that everything's wrapped up and like everyone's happy and everyone goes off to live their lives and it's all beautiful and everyone's singing songs and the beautiful music cues up. But for like that world, there's still the next day, so a fight's gonna happen later. Like, let's say for instance, like just years down the line, he just did another Attack on Titan like one shot, and it was 2,000 years in the future to see how things happen. Like, do you think there's never going to be conflict again for 2,000 years? That's the point. So, what Aaron did was stomping out 80% of humanity. He gave the Eldians a chance, which is what he ultimately wanted. Of course, he wanted to stomp them all out, but he did very good. He got it so that he bought them time. He greatly diminished the forces of the rest of the world. He made them scared of parodies, so they would leave them alone for even longer, giving them more time, of course. And also gave the world a common threat, so that way Paradis could also use that, and since they're the ones that killed him, to ally with more nations, the ones that decided to say, you know what, let's stop fighting with Paradis. And then on top of that, also reversed the curse, and no Eldians can turn into Titans anymore. That's a lot he did. I don't believe that was all for nothing. And then I flash forward, we see this peace discussion talks, we see trade deals happening, we see we feel development in the world happening. There's fighting, there is war. However, there's always going to be some level of conflict somewhere. Society's not perfectible, and someone's going to be fighting someone. What Aaron did was give them a real chance, which was a lot better than what they were trying to do with just hopefully waiting until they could catch up technologically before everyone else came and bombed the island. So I find that a little weird that people are saying that, but I thoroughly enjoyed the ending, and I think Hisayama did a great job. And for those of you excited that are anime watchers only, sorry I kind of just spoiled the ending there for you, but those of you that are anime only watchers or just excited about watching anime, because I do want to see the ending of it animated, it will arrive this winter, has been announced, and there is a part 2 coming, and it will cover the probably be maybe about 16 episodes like the last one. The first part was 16, the last part probably be 16. If not, at the minimum it will be 8, but like I could see it being anywhere from like 10 to 16. My bet is on 12 though. So regardless, we got Mappa doing it again, of course. They're finishing the season. They're finishing the second half, and it'll be out this winter. So there is for the anime watchers and the manga viewers that want to see certain scenes animated. I know a couple I want to see. We got more. We do have a little bit more Attack on Titan coming. So if you're disappointed like I am in comic books, give manga a try. All they try to do is tell great stories. They don't focus on social ills. They don't try to push their agenda and narratives. Like Attack on Titan's actually pretty funny because it talks about a lot of social commentary, but it's all a part of the show, so it's all natural. They don't force it upon you. And I hope you give stuff like this a try. Well, guys, that is going to do it for today's show. That's going to do it. And I hope everyone enjoyed this episode of the Tasteful Fan Service podcast. So that's going to be it for this one. Yeah, have a good one.